Our next speaker comes all the way from Norway. We are welcoming Birte. I have a problem with your last name.
Hatlehol.
She comes from the Hedmark University College, which is about 2 hours from Oslo, up north. And she will tell us about their experience in using digital storytelling with young citizens.
And how do I get that one over? Okay, my name is Birte, and I would like to present to you the project called Youth in the Center, or Ung I Sentrum in Norwegian, where digital storytelling was a central method in the citizenship education. Youth in the Center was completed at Gausdal High School in Norway in 2003 and 2004. At that time, we didn't have Facebook, MySpace, Twitter, YouTube, but I think these stories made in the project is still relevant, and these students were between 16 and 17 years old, undertaking media and communication studies, which is a vocational discipline in Norway. In Norway, we don't have a special subject called citizenship education, but the citizenship education is integrated in the ordinary subjects and in the school democracy. So, as a part of the subject media production, the citizenship education was integrated through the Youth in the Center project. And these students, they worked about 3 weeks with this project. The first year we did this project, 23 students joined it, and the second year, 25 students. When I started this project, my research question was, can digital storytelling engage and motivate young people to become active citizens? I also wondered if different types of texts could give the students different possibilities to articulate themselves. So the first year, the students made both hypertext, digital stories, and they also manipulated pictures. So now I will show you a story.
Hi, my name is Birte. I am working with a project about youth and democracy. Concerns about the future of the democracy have led to a worldwide interest in issues pertaining to education and citizenship. A key question is how to include young people into politics and create an education that supports their development to become active citizens. And here, new digital media and internet has a great potential to engage and give young people a voice. As part of my study, I have developed a project called Youth in the Center in partnership with Gausdal High School. The school is nearby the city of Lillehammer in Norway. Some years ago, the local authorities in Lillehammer wanted to make a new 10-year development plan for the city. The citizens were invited to take part in this process, and the project Youth in the Center gave the students the opportunity to participate in this process and reflect on the future of the city and express their thoughts. Lillehammer, a small and charming city with a population of approximately 25,000 people, surrounded by beautiful countryside. You have perhaps been there? A popular tourist destination and well known for its fine old wooden houses. Maybe Lillehammer is a bit too cozy. This was some of the students' expressions and desires for the future of Lillehammer. Actually, they created Lille Manhattan. I interpret the youngsters' view as a wish to urbanize the city in order to make it attractive for young people. With skyscrapers behind the old and venerable Norwegian bank, the young people both engage and provoke. They want a city that is alive and not a museum for tourists, even though they also want to preserve the old parts of the city. But also other ideas came up. One of them was to develop the city's beach into something more than a windy and dreary place. Or what about a drive-in cinema at the city's main plaza? The other central theme was about how it feels to be an adolescent in Lillehammer.
Lillehammer skysstasjon. Alle foreldre frykter kanskje at barna deres skal henge der. Ja, for det er jo klart at det flyter dop rundt omkring på hele stasjonen. Jeg har hengt på stasjonen flere ganger i flere timer, og jeg har ikke sett snurten av noe som helst slags rusmiddel. Mange tyr til stasjonen, og det skjønner jeg godt. Du møter folk og kan sitte på benkene der helt uforstyrret, uten å bli kastet ut. Man kan gå på nikkers, men der blir man jo kastet ut etter kort tid. Føler meg litt som den elgen som står utenfor noen ganger. Jeg får stikke huet så vidt innenfor, men lenger kommer jeg ikke. Så da tyr du kanskje til Lilletorget. Men er det egentlig noe sted å sitte der? Er det egentlig noe folk der? Nei, det er egentlig sjelden det er det. Du treffer kanskje noen venner en gang iblant. Men til syvende og sist så blir du sittende på en benk på stasjonen og lurer på om det egentlig er noe sted for deg selv å gå.
Yes, that was the story of Stine, one of the students. As you saw in this short story, she talks about how it is to be a young person in Lillehammer. It's nothing, or it's too little to do, and the students also think Lillehammer is like a museum, and they want some more action, and I support them in that. Okay, that was the first year of the project. And the second year, the students were only to use the digital storytelling technique, because I found this way to communicate the most interesting, and because it seems to me that the students got more possibilities to reflect and express themselves. So it functioned in another way than making a hypertext and manipulating pictures. This year, the students decided by themselves what theme they wanted to cover, but they got this question: what do you want to have an impact on, and what views do you have in that case? And this project was rather exciting because the students chose subjects that which had never occurred to me. They chose 5 main themes to work with in groups: transportation, in the eyes of the adults, suppression, tuning the moped and wolves, youth, sex, body and police. The interesting part was that almost all the students related those issues to their own lives in one way or another. And I will tell you a little about some of the stories to explain this. One of the stories from the transportation group, Kristin's story. Let me tell a little bit about the group first. They discussed young people's need for transportation in different ways. Some of the texts criticized the school bus service and the lack of security. Some of the boys was making stories about driving to school in a car and having an accident and so on. But Kristin's story, she took the opportunity to express her opinion to a public authority about the school bus service through a written letter. She proposed a concrete solution to the problem. In the story, we listen to the letter and follow its way to the local authorities. She also shows us the conditions in the bus. It is much too crowded, and the students have to sit all over with backpacks spread around. With other words, it wasn't safe, especially not in the winter time in Norway, where the roads are full of snow and ice. even though she did not get a response from the authorities while the project was going on, the end of the real-time story was that the authorities changed the bus service. So it was a happy ending on this story in real life too. The next story I will tell a little about is from the group In the Eyes of the Adults. The stories in this group is mainly about how others can view someone critically, especially adults, and but it also but also by oneself. You could be quite critical to yourself, and some of the girls in this group are shows that. But also the critical eyes from the opposite sex. Leni's story is she used a citation from Socrates from 2,000 years ago. If it's really is Socrates is a question, but she used it, and he is also complaining about the youth 2,000 years ago. So this is nothing new. The story tells us that even though adults complain, they have been young one time themselves, so they should not forget that and look at the young people and remind their own youth. You see here she used pictures from not newspapers, but magazines from the 60s with Robert Redford and so on, and she also interviewed people in old people in an institution to cover her story. Another group was suppression, and they discussed injustice and oppression of both human and animals. And one of the girls made a beautiful and thoughtful story about refugees and asylum seekers, and how one of the Norwegian politicians want to stop all the aid to those who have been denied their application for residence in Norway. The story shows us a deep reflection about where the distinction between right and wrong goes with respect to being human in these questions. The story has a distinct approach and appeal to both emotions and intellect with the help of a thoughtful poetic style. And you can see these pictures. They are well created and put together in a very nice way. Using these visual tools, it creates sympathy with the Somali boy you see over here. And there is a very interesting thing with this, with her use of these pictures. We see an ultra close picture of the politician, and here is the Somali boy in the story. The politician looks both intrusive and dominant. She practically oozes out of the frame, and she is a big contrast to the boy. He doesn't even not have enough space so that we can see all of his face. He had to share space with this text over here. So that is quite a special way to communicate something without words. So she's literally presenting this boy as a half human being. So I think this story testifies about a deep reflection of major policy issues such as freedom and justice. And this girl, she worked a lot with the story, and she was reflecting a lot about what is right and what is wrong, and what should I mean? How can I figure out what's the rights and what the wrongs in the world? The group Youth, Sex, Body and Police, they had many complex issues, but especially they contributed to discussion about the law itself, such as the parole for convicts and the age of sexual consent, as Anja's story tells about. At that time, there was a lot of discussion of lowering the age of sexual consent from 16 to 15 in Norway. And Anja made a story of that. She reflects and argues for her own point of view. And she asked why we can't lower the sexual consent when so many youth under 16 years old, under 16, are having sex. And her argument, she says, hello, this is the same argument as lowering the penalty for murder because there are so many who kills. So she's discussing the way of making arguments in this issue. She also talks about consequences of having sex. She shows us that having a baby. She doesn't talk about it exactly, but she shows us the picture of this baby. And she claims that 14 years old youth is way too young to having a baby. They are even not mature enough to understand the consequences of having sex and actually care about them. And then she says, if we lower the legal limit, what happens then? Yes, we end up in a chain reaction. Young people who are just old enough to have sex feel a greater sexual harassment. And when will this stop? 14, 13, 12, 11, 10. And then we see a young girl in preschool saying, stop. So Anja, she claims that 16-year-old youth have more insight into themselves. They have had more time to learn about themselves and then have a better basis for less selecting if they want to have sex or not. Therefore, she doesn't want to lower the sexual consent. You could go to the internet and watch this story. Now you will know a little bit about them, even though they are in Norwegian. The last group was about tuning the moped and wolves. And this group aim was to enhance the life in the countryside. And they discussed the conflict between livestock and wolves, and they promote moped driving as a very joyful hobby. This stories about moped driving is quite funny, but they're also very interesting, because according to the law, tuning the moped is not allowed in Norway. Does everybody knows what tuning a moped is? No? You don't do that here? Make it go faster? Yeah? And these two boys, they made, Mats and Magnus, made two different stories, but with the same, almost the same material. But they were taking different approaches to the law in this respect. In both the stories, humor is used as a tool, but they are pointing to different directions. While Mats highlights that one should follow the common law, Magnus' story, however, refers to need for self-realization and freedom, which can make it difficult to adjust to and comply with the law. He knows very well that they are not allowed to trim the moped. He knows he could be caught by the police, and he knows he can hurt himself. Nevertheless, it is important for him to bring out the playful and joy of driving a moped. So on the one hand, you have the story with rationality, reason, control, and self-limitation. And on the other hand, the story about freedom, fulfillment, and emotions. So these two boys, the stories together make a very nice, oh, what do you say? It gets even bigger than one of them. Yeah, I don't know how to say it. Okay. So my conclusion after this project is that digital storytelling, where you use speech, written text, pictures in a meaningful creative process, has a great potential for giving the students the possibility to create a voice and contributing to develop the students' imagination, reflection, and even autonomy. Through active engagement of their imaginations, the students become aware of their own thoughts and viewpoints, and they can reflect on their own and other standpoints, and they are even empowered. Many of the students thought in the beginning it was very difficult to, oh, what story should I tell? I don't have any viewpoints of anything. I don't know what I mean about Lillehammer City or about suppression, or so what should I tell? But this is a process, and in the group they worked with these questions, and they created a lot of beautiful stories. And not only beautiful, I think some of the stories could have an impact. So the conclusion of the project Youth in the Center is that media articulation through digital storytelling facilitates the democratic education process and strengthens the students' active participation in democracy as media citizens. Okay, thank you very much.